This is a beast. Say hello to the R9 390X. This is the epitome of the 28 nanometer, manufacturing process for GCN on AMD's side. It was super beast of a card. It takes not only an 8-pin power connector, but another 6. It's just, you can fry an egg on it while it's running. It's a beast. And I was wondering, once I got my hands on it, could it keep up with this old little band-aid of a EcoBoost Mustang? Well, we're going to figure that out, and we're going to answer some more questions, show some gaming benchmarks, and kind of answer where does this fit in these days, and can it keep up with some newer architecture, some a lot less expensive versions of itself, and see where it fits into the mix and whether you should buy one. This is the R9 390X review from Timmy Joe. Cue an intro, we're going to talk all about it. Bah! So, I got my hands on this. This was a very expensive, crazy, hard to get a hold of card at the time. You could get a hold of 390s, 380s, 290s probably a little bit easier than this 390X crazy edition. It has 8 gigabytes of Gddr5. It is clocked at 1050 megahertz. It's built on the 28 nanometer architecture, manufacturing process. It has 4 giant heat pipes running through it, aluminum heat spreaders, and it's just a beast of a card. Does it still hold true? Can it still play video games? This is very good. I thought it would actually be a lot better, if I'm honest. I thought, doing my research, that it was quite a bit better than the RX 480 and by proxy the RX 580. But unfortunately, it's kind of really showing its age at this point, especially considering how hot it is, how loud it is, how heavy it is, the power consumption and all of that. It's pretty much performing exactly, actually this will kind of beat it out as the RX 480. So what's going on here? This is AMD's Hail Mary to kind of compete with the 970, and they were kind of having a hard time getting the Fury series out, so they've slapped some paint on their 290, which was a card that was basically a 7970 anyways, and tried to squeeze one last little year out of this thing. And if this is a Ferrari, it is a 90s Ferrari. It looks awesome, it looks great. On a track, it will not compete with even a Subaru WRX these days. It's a pretty good analogy. I think Linus said, if this is a Ferrari, this is an EcoBoost Mustang, just some variation of all this, especially with the Fury series. They took a step back with the RX, and it was a good idea because for a smaller process, this really kicks some ass. It actually has a higher clock speed, has a higher memory bandwidth than this, and it's a lot cheaper, especially considering their launch prices. This, $260, an RX 580 these days, you can get one with 8 gigabytes of RAM around that. The 4 gigabyte model you can get, for like $220. This retailed for over $400, and it's still hard to even find them for anywhere, cheaper than $300. It's because when you buy a card for $400 or $500, you probably want to get your money back when you go to trade up. And on eBay, I couldn't find one of these for any less than $300. When why would you buy this when you could buy an RX 580 for brand new for a lot cheaper? It doesn't even make sense. So can it compete? Can it play games? Can it put the FPSs versus this thing? I was actually trying to pin this against the GTX 1070 I had in my hands. There's just no contest. There's no reason to do that. This is not a newer architecture competitor unfortunately. This is kind of a dinosaur at this point. So let's go ahead and throw some benchmarks up on the screen. We're going to do the R9 390X versus the RX 480 8GB edition. And I overclocked this so it's more of a 580 competitor. And we'll see if it makes sense for you to pick up one of these versus one of these, and then I'll give you some final conclusions. So, this wins a little more often than not, doesn't it? Kind of makes you wonder why you'd want, this 2.5 slot monster in your system when you can pick up a lot lighter RX 480, even the reference model, and it competes right up there with it, if not beats it, in a lot of the newer titles. I think just based on optimization, driver optimization, and whatnot. So I like where AMD went with this. I think with the RX series, they could have, since they shrunk the manufacturing process, put a lot more stream processors or whatever and ROPs into this card and hoped to compete with the 1080 at the time. And maybe they would have done it, but then NVIDIA would have brought out the 1080 Ti and the new Titan Pascal and blew them out of the water again, and they would have been right back to square one, where now they're rebuilding with Vega, a whole new architecture, a whole new way of delivering memory. We've seen high bandwidth memory from AMD before and how it can compete, but it was with the likes of this. So put this together with some high bandwidth memory and a new manufacturing process and a new architecture, and I think AMD will have a winner on their hands with Vega. Let's hope. But as far as the R9 390X goes, I'm gonna have to say you'd be kind of crazy to pick one of these up unless you could get it for $200, because it's an aging dinosaur and it was noticeably hot when I took it out of this system after running Unigen superposition, maybe 5 minutes before I took it out of the system. I was like, oh damn, is this thing still hot? It has to ramp the fans up so hard that my case rumbles back and forth here, where this thing I can barely even hear the fan on it, running the same types of FPSs, the same type of workload. It's a whole other world that we're living in. And I would actually say the GTX 1070 I just had a opportunity to review, which we'll be checking out later this week. It was, blew this out of the water, and it was much the same experience. It was quiet, it was cool, it only required one pin connector. It was an 8-pin, not a 6, but kind of shows where things are going. Very power efficient, lots of performance, and you don't need a hot rod. I know that some of the 1080 Ti's are even bigger than this thing, but you don't need a hot rod cooler to get some serious performance. I'm Timmy Joe. Vega's coming out soon. I will definitely be getting my hands on one of those, but it's fun to look back on where AMD is coming from, where they are, and soon where they're going.